Rio de Janeiro, or simply Rio, is the second most populous municipality in Brazil and the sixth most populous in the Americas. The metropolis is anchored to the Rio de Janeiro metropolitan area, the second most populous metropolitan area in Brazil and sixth most populous in the Americas. Rio de Janeiro is the capital of the state of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil's third most populous state. Part of the city has been designated as a World Heritage Site, named Rio de Janeiro, Carioca Landscapes Between the Mountain and the Sea, by UNESCO on July 1, 2012 as a cultural landscape. Founded in 1565 by the Portuguese, the city was initially the seat of the Captaincy of Rio de Janeiro, a domain of the Portuguese Empire. Later, in 1763, it became the capital of the state of Brazil, a state of the Portuguese Empire. In 1808, when the Portuguese royal court transferred itself from Portugal to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro became the chosen seat of the court of Queen Maria I of Portugal, who subsequently, in 1815, under the leadership of her son, the Prince Regent, and future King João VI of Portugal, raised Brazil to the dignity of a kingdom, within the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and Algarves. Rio stayed the capital of the pluricontinental Lusitanian monarchy until 1822, when the War of Brazilian Independence began. This is one of the few instances in history that the capital of a colonizing country officially shifted to a city in one of its colonies. Rio de Janeiro subsequently served as the capital of the independent monarchy, the Empire of Brazil, until 1889. And then the capital of the Republican Brazil until 1960, when the capital was transferred to Brasilia. Rio de Janeiro has the second largest municipal GDP in the country, and 30th largest in the world in 2008. Rio de Janeiro is on the far western part of a strip of Brazil's Atlantic coast, between a strait east to Ilha Grande, on the Costa Verde, and the Cabo Frio, close to the Tropic of Capricorn, where the shoreline is oriented east-west. Facing largely south, the city was founded on an inlet of this stretch of the coast, Guanabara Bay, Baía de Guanabara, and its entrance is marked by a point of land called Sugar Loaf, Pau da Açúcar, calling card of the city. The center, Centro, the core of Rio, lies on the plains of the western shore of Guanabara Bay. The greater portion of the city, commonly referred to as the North Zone, Zona Norte, extends to the northwest on plains composed of marine and continental sediments and on hills and several rocky mountains. The South Zone, Zona Sul, of the city, reaching the beaches fringing the open sea, is cut off from the center and from the North Zone by coastal mountains. These mountains and hills are offshoots of the Serra do Mar to the northwest, the ancient gneiss granite mountain chain that forms the southern slopes of the Brazilian highlands. The large West Zone, Zona Este, long cut off by the mountainous terrain, had been made more easily accessible to those on the South Zone by new roads and tunnels by the end of the 20th century. Rio has a tropical savanna climate that closely borders a tropical monsoon climate according to the Köppen climate classification, and is often characterized by long periods of heavy rain between December and March. In inland areas of the city, temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, are common during the summer, though rarely for long periods, while maximum temperatures above 27 degrees Celsius, 81 degrees Fahrenheit, can occur on a monthly basis. In May 1894, Thomas Donohoe, a British worker from Busby, Scotland, arrived in Bangor. 69. He was horrified to discover that there was no knowledge of football among Brazilians. So he wrote to his wife, Elizabeth, asking her to bring a football when she joined him. And shortly after her arrival, in September 1894, the first football match in Brazil took place in the field beside the textile factory. It was a five-a-side match between British workers, and took place 6 months before the first game organized by Charles Miller in São Paulo. However, the Bangor Football Club was not formally created until 1904. The Rio de Janeiro metropolitan area, According to 2009 research from Fundação Getúlio Vargas, ranks first in Brazil in the percentage of Catholics, 51.09%, living there. Rio de Janeiro city also ranks fifth among Brazilian federal state capital cities in the percentage of its population that is irreligious, 13.33%, barely changing since 2000. The first ranked, Boa Vista, has 21.16% irreligious. It is also the Brazilian capital with the greatest percentage of Spiritists, now about 4 to 5%, and with substantial numbers in Afro-Brazilian religions and Eastern religions. Rio de Janeiro is a main cultural hub in Brazil. Its architecture embraces churches and buildings dating from the 16th to the 19th centuries, blending with the world-renowned designs of the 20th century. Rio was home to the Portuguese imperial family and capital of the country for many years, and was influenced by Portuguese, English, and French architecture. Rio de Janeiro is Brazil's primary tourist attraction and resort. It receives the most visitors per year of any city in South America with 2.82 million international tourists a year. The city sports world-class hotels, approximately 80 kilometers of beaches and the famous Corcovado and Sugarloaf Mountains. While the city had in past had a thriving tourism sector, the industry entered a decline in the last quarter of the 20th century. Annual international airport arrivals dropped from 621,000 to 378,000 and average hotel occupancy dropped to 50% between 1985 and 1993. The official song of Rio de Janeiro is Cidade Maravilhosa, which means marvelous city. The song is considered the civic anthem of Rio, and is always the favorite song during Rio's Carnival in February. Carnival is an annual celebration in the Roman Catholic tradition that allows merrymaking and red meat consumption before the more sober 40 days of Lent penance, which culminates with Holy or Passion Week and Easter. The tradition of carnival parades was probably influenced by the French or German courts, and the custom was brought by the Portuguese or Brazilian imperial families who had Bourbon and Austrian ancestors. Up until the time of the Martinhas, the revelry was more of a high-class and Caucasian-led event. Rio de Janeiro hosted the 2016 Olympics and Paralympics. The Olympic Games were held from 5 to August 21, 2016. The Paralympics were held from 7 to September 18, 2016.